Well, basically, we all ended up kind of going different directions for a while. You know, college came around, and Mike and I and Sean lived in the townhouse in Granite Falls, and Tony and I was in Moorhead to school, and those younger guys were busy with high school yet. And basically, the court just kind of fell second choice because we were all going to college. And
you know, you're only once in high school. You're only young once, as they say. And we all, we graduated high school, and we still kind of hit the court. I think especially maybe our senior graduation summer, we played out there quite a bit. But that was a less and less deal. You know, we'd get out there once in a while, but eventually, we all went our separate ways on some levels, and we just couldn't get together and play out there. And
it was unfortunate. It was a lot of fun to kind of bring all the guys together just to hang out. It gave us something to do. There isn't really a whole lot to do around here, and kind of just gave us something to do. And as soon as everyone graduated, kind of slowly had people going, their own ways, and it just declined. I mean,
in the days of the Olive Garden, really kind of, we didn't play basketball out there as we did back in high school, and it was basically doomed. And so it was kind of sad to see that happen, and it was just a matter of us guys, getting together and play out there again. But it always happens. After we get out of high school, we get a little out of shape. We're not as active as we used to be, and then we think, yeah, we should play out at the Olive Garden again, and all of a sudden just kind of like, yeah, that's a good idea, but I don't think we'll make it till a 50-point game. So it really didn't materialize a whole lot.
It wasn't quite as easy to get together and play games. People kind of talked about it a lot more often than it actually happened. I don't know if I actually, maybe once or twice went out there again. Probably not even that, if I remember correctly. Kind of after that point, I think there were a few games here and there out there with some other people or with some of the guys, but it definitely dropped off after everybody kind of going off in their own direction and doing their own thing.
I thought once the court was done, not going out there my junior and senior, it just kind of left a kind of emptiness, almost like a sense of belonging to be out there in the fall before basketball started. I mean, we did it for 2 straight years, before basketball started, after basketball ended. I mean, it was almost a spot out of me that I wasn't used to. I mean, the court brings back a lot of memories that I love, I'll cherish, I'll take forever. I mean, I'll tell my kids about it. I mean, when we weren't able to go out there my junior and senior year, I mean, that was tough. I mean,
there was always talk of, we should have a reunion game, but it was, you couldn't get a hold of enough people. There's always someone doing this or doing that, and just couldn't ever work out the details to get it done.
Well, while we played, everything was in top-notch shape. The grass was completely gone. It was just hard ground because we had wore it down to nothing. And, slowly the grass started making its way back. Every year we were trimming trees out there before we played because the trees were growing over top of the court. So we would trim them down and, keep it up. And we just didn't go out there and do that anymore. And before you knew it, the lights had fallen down. They had been kind of tied up in the trees, and they had broke. The light bulbs that were on top of the roof had kind of stopped working. The building that was the east boundary of the court was the east side of it. The roof has got holes in it. It's fallen in. It doesn't get used for anything really anymore anyway. The one hoop is still standing tall, but the other one had snapped off in a windstorm, and we just never put the effort in to put it back up.
The years passed, and people would get married, and people would get done with their post-secondary education and start having kids and so on and so forth, and it just got to the point where you almost kind of forget about the court, and it's kind of sad. And until you know, Mike and myself went out there this last January of 2007, and we started watching, or actually started taping for this project, and we started looking at the court itself, and you know, the north hoop is down, and there's a lot of garbage and a lot of old machinery kind of laying around, and a lot of dead leaves, and you know, we just could not believe that, you know, 10 plus years ago we had such a good time out there, and now it's just kind of so desolate, and it's kind of like a ghost town out there. And you know, that's what happens. You know, time happens. It moves on, and we just did not have the time, you know, to spend together like we did back in high school, and that's just what happened.
It's one of them deals there. Yeah, it's sad it's over, but it's obviously a part of life that has to happen. You know, you can't all stay young forever, and we all got to start our own lives. And but talking about some great memories, and I think sometimes those times and those memories and those, you know, those times we shared together, not so much that you take for granted, but it's easy to forget about them unless they're thrown in your face. And I think if someone throws them in your face, you really appreciate them. And I think whether or not all of us got along the greatest, even though I think for the most part we all got along pretty good, all the guys that played out there, but I think between you know, the raft trip for a handful of us, and then this court, especially the court, we all created a bond that it won't just be that we were friends then. We always will have that bond from that time, basically for the rest of our lives, whether we still stay in contact or whether we don't. And it'll always be something you can't take away.